Hello, and welcome to WhyILove Warhammer, the series where I go to unscripted rambles about why listening in this hobby. And today we're just going to do a bit of a casual painting live chat stream. And here I've got 3 Necrons. These are the 3 that were introduced for the Necron Codex in 10th edition. So we've got the updated Oracle the Diviner, got the updated Imitic the Stormlord, and we've got the Necron Overlord with Translocation Shroud. So if you watch, hello viewer. If you've been watching any of my streams, you know kind of the standard to which I try and paint, and so we're going to try. And I started the Imotech a couple of weeks ago on stream. Didn't get to do a stream last week because I was on a holiday with loved ones. So yeah, today we're just going to try and just get as far as we can with these. And if you wanted to paint along with me, we've all got backlogs. Most of us have backlogs, and so we can just paint together and get through our backlogs together and not have the pile of shame. So what I'm doing right here is I'm using the contrast paint Hexwraith Flame on the primed miniature that was primed in Lead Belcher, just the spray that Games Workshop sell. And the plan is to do a thin coat of this contrast all over the Translocation Shroud. So it's mostly green, but the silver will come through. So that will give the effect of the so I'm hoping that will that should look like the proper Necrodermis, the proper tech that the Necrons have and use, but being done in such a way that it's still undeniably metal, give the illusion that this stuff is actually building the Necron as we see it. It's a cool image, the Translocation Shroud. I think when I got these, I knew I did want to start doing. When I got these, I knew I was going to want to paint them on stream. So I built them first, knowing in advance how hard that would make it to paint them up. But it's a challenge. Every model, try and do something either different or better. And painting a model this intricate on stream, certainly different. And I'm going to always try and make it better. Also, let me know if you're watching this back and you want to have a face cam for the streams. Let me know. I've started not doing the face cam, which means I don't have to look presentable on camera, but I'm aware that there's a certain lack of personal touch if you're not using the camera. So let me know. I stopped using the camera because of comments I received saying to stop doing it. And I do listen to feedback, and when it seemed like they had a valid point, I thought, you know what, let's give this a go. So yeah, how's everyone doing today? It's a weird one. February's not been the greatest of months for me, but you know, we keep on keeping on. Doing the same Hexwraith Flame on Orokin the Diviner's Cube. I enjoyed the response I got to the Infinite and the Divine in 4 sentences video, because, you know, like I said, it's one of, definitely my favorite 40k fiction. And what's interesting though is it was billed to me as a comedy, which it kind of is, but the audiobook version was told in this incredibly dramatic voice, which, you know, isn't the most conducive to punchlines. Okay. In front of me, I've got my paints that I've planned out for the color scheme of these guys in the order in which they're to be used. It's going to be a lot of green for this first part. Oh, I mean, it's basically multiple shades of green, but to be entirely honest, I don't think I can look at green for that long, that much, so I'm going to go in a slightly different order. So I've got now snakebite leather, and snakebite leather is going to be used for the earth bits of these guys. It's mostly on the bases. So let's start with this boy here. It's a good thick layer on his stone. But I'll keep exposed metal in the silver. This is just for the rest of it. What this does is just provides a bit of difference between the Necron himself, or themself, and the base. It's saying, I'm not standing on metal. I'm also a proponent of the at least 3 colors visible thing for models. When contrast paints were introduced, they introduced this concept of a model battle ready. But battle ready wasn't really well defined. Yeah, they've got these things of battle ready, parade ready, and competition ready, which are standards that I kept trying to understand, but there was no consistent definition. The closest I feel I could come to it was battle ready is, yeah, this basically looks like what the model is supposed to look like. And then parade ready was that, but looking really good now. And then it kind of, and then it's just kind of this subjective view on this looks good, this looks better, this looks even better. So I never really got on with the phrase battle ready. So, because I like to have a definition, right? And the definition that I feel works for me is at least 3 colors. That's what works. That's the definition I like to use. But those 3 colors doesn't really work so well if they're silver, green, and green. So the brown breaks that up as well. Nice earthy brown, and with this being a contrast paint, you do get you get the shading built in, which is very appealing. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave off this bit here with the scarab because that looks metallic to me, as in it looks like it should be metal. So I'm going to keep that as metal and go from there. And similarly with Imotech here, this platform he's on is mostly like a metallic platform. So I'm only going to do this absolute very base bit down here. In the brown. There we are. That is all the brown done for all three models. The Citadel base brush, which is what I'm using here, is possibly my favorite brush that they sell. It's got a really nice end to it that's just really lovely to use. Next, I'm going to use some Caliban green. And Caliban green for my Necrons is for the for the Overlord. It's going to be for that kind of back armor, and then for Imotech and Oricon, it's going to be used on their weapon. And the reason why is that because they are leader units, I will want to make their headpieces and their back plates gold. So let's get a bit of this Caliban green on. Starting with Imotech, because he's physically the closest. I'm going to dab a little bit of this paint on, because I don't want to go over the lines that I filled in with the watered down Hexwraith Flame before. Just very gently going around. What's interesting actually with collecting models is that it becomes, you almost forget, sometimes you put loads of effort into models that you don't ever really use. I barely remember the last time I actually fielded an Imotech the Stormlord. And the reason was that he just felt outclassed by other combos. And that for the same points, I could get like more warriors and stuff. But what that means is that the models you put a lot of effort into, the models you get really proud of, you never get to show off. That is a bit of a shame, really, because I like to show off my models. Tell you one game system I really liked was Warhammer Apocalypse for these kind of 10,000 plus point games. I mean, that point, I think I had about 10,000 points worth of Necrons. Now it's more like 13. But what was so impressive, but yeah, what was really fun with that is just kind of the sheer scale of it. What was a bit frustrating though is that at the time, my little game group, I was the only one to have even 2,000 points. So when we tried, it was 3v1. They had 6,000. No, I had 8,000 points in Necrons at the time. And I was 8,000 points on my side versus 6,000 points on the other side. Still lost. Had the hilarious moment where I had 3 models explode when they were taken down to 0 wounds. But it was one model got to 0 wounds, exploded, took down the next model, which then exploded and took down the next model. So it was just an absolute hilarious moment. What's funny though is when people talk to you, say, talk about being a good sport and whatnot. It's always funny because I feel like I'd be a far better sport about losing if I had more wins. Like if I lose, like say, three quarters of my games, you know what? Fair enough. I'm bad at the game, but I've won 2 games of Warhammer in the last decade. Just 2. And it can be very hard after... also, one was in a Games Workshop shop that was Age of Sigmar. And the other was, one game of 40k. I've won a single game of 40k in the last 10 years of, quite a lot of them played. So I feel like if I'd had a better win rate, I would have been far more, be a far better sport about things. That's just me. It's interesting though, since I started the channel, it's been, I don't get to go out much. Not really had money to spend to go out. So I've not been able to go back to a Games Workshop shop for a while. Because the store owner for the one I'm local to is really lovely, really friendly. But yeah, I just don't get to go out that much. It's funny, I can actually feel myself going a bit stir crazy as a result. What's also funny is I actually figured out approximately how many more weeks I can keep going on for with live streams before we need to get new models. It's about 6 weeks, including today. Because if I progress with these models the way I think I'm going to, which kind of means I'm hoping to not be on target with this painting, so that I'm able to keep going longer. I got some models on order. Absolute dream Middle-earth army on order, but I don't know when they're going to arrive. Without those, my backlog at the moment consists of these 3 Necrons, a couple of Red Gobbo from Christmas just gone, and an Immolator. I've got a couple of other models, but they're not GW stuff. It's the 2 so far, Goblins from Rogue Hobbies, a kit bash I've been working on, I've been dreaming of for a while, and I've got the final piece there, and a resin Legion for Mass Effect. That's my backlog. Yes, if I finished painting up these Necrons today, like is the plan, but that could fall through. But if I had to finish painting up these Necrons today, then I can't see it taking more than 4 weeks to actually to do the immolator, and then another week to do another stream to do the Red Gobbo. And hello, welcome to the stream. So yeah, just painting up these dudes. So next, now I'm about done, or not quite, with this Caliban green. I'm going to move on to the Henna's Gold. Shri Futtringer said hello in the chat and welcome to the stream. Hope you enjoy it. It's just going to be painting up some of these models and just having a bit of just seeing how far we get, really. So the way I'm going to be doing this basically is to go paint a green, paint a non-green, and just alternate like that. Just because otherwise I'll be seeing too much green at the same time. So now we're done with Caliban green, I'm going to move on to the Gehenna's Gold. So I've got 2 pots of Gehenna's Gold. One's quite old, and one is a newer one. And the old one is officially dry, so that's going away. So we have a brand new pot of Gehenna's Gold. And what's interesting actually is Gehenna's Gold is my second favorite shade of gold that they sell. My favorite is called Auric Armor Gold, but that's not the most user-friendly, I guess would be the word. One pot of paint close up. So trying to see if that, just going to check, make sure that closed properly, move Aurican back a little bit, and that is the Gehenna's Gold. Open her up. And so now, just move that a bit further away, just so it's not, so you can still see the stuff I'm working with. So on the Necron Overlord with Translocation Shroud, I'm going to be using this gold on his weaponry. Basically on the kind of blades that he's got going on. Gives them a bit of nobility. The Necron Overlords, they are nobles. And you want them to feel a bit regal. Then what you do, especially with a layer paint like this, is they are very liquidy. So you kind of go back and do another layer afterwards. I'm not especially adept at the 2 thin coats school of painting, but it is something I can try and emulate here a bit with this layer paint, because it's quite thin and you want it to, look good. What's quite funny is, so you get these. Good question. Good question. So the length of time is far shorter than you'd think. So using kind of poster paints as a child or acrylic paints, you've got to leave it hours. I remember as a child, leave it overnight was the phrase. At school, you'd leave, if you painted something at school, you'd leave it until the next school day. But Games Workshop paints, they are weirdly tacky. So everything that I say about the consistency of them is in relation to them being incredibly tacky. And they dry remarkably quickly, at least enough to do the second layer. So now that I've finished doing the back of the blade here, I can turn the model back around, and the front will be dry enough that I can then do the second layer there. Yeah, it's not very long at all. You need between layers. And what the second layer does with these thinner paints, actually, it helps disguise the brush strokes a bit, which is very handy. But yeah, that's all you need. It's just a little bit of time between the layers for it to dry a little bit. That is a lovely gold blade. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to use a really thin, just very gentle. So he's got this this anchor mold sculpted onto his blade here. I'm just going to very gently go over that. The trick with doing these kinds of details is you don't press very hard at all with the brush, just a little bit. And in doing that, you just capture those top details. And anywhere you've got some kind of filigree, gentle brush over, captures those top details, but doesn't kind of spread across the rest of the model. So that is the gold on him done. Now for Orican the Diviner and Imitate the Stormlord, they are far more big, fancy Necron guys. So they get a lot more gold. A lot more gold. So just go big. I'd say go big or go home, but people, anytime I hear that phrase, I usually wish I'd gone home. Good layer all across here. And then get the inside as much as we can. And welcome to the stream. I see there are a couple of you here now. Lovely to have you both. Yeah, just getting good layer of gold in on this shoulder blob. And then on the second gold blob. Okay, now we're back to the first layer. Oh, no, go back to where we started from with the gold, just to get that really good coverage. Oh, yeah, so I mentioned earlier about having done an apocalypse game, which is several thousand points. I think that's actually the only time I've ever actually fielded Orican the Diviner in a game. But he's just too cool to not do stuff with, to not own and paint. He's a chronomancer. He literally sees into the future. I just think it's really cool how he is. And again, he's technically the antagonist of the Infinite and the Divine, but I'm calling him the antagonist because I view Trazen the Infinite as the character we follow as the protagonist, and Orican is there to oppose him. He's not the baddie by any stretch. As much as anyone in Warhammer 40k is not the baddie, everyone's the baddie in 40k, really, because otherwise, how do you justify having? If everyone's got to be the baddie, mostly because otherwise you can't justify fighting them, right? There's an objective good guy, then why would you want to fight them? Everyone would play as the goodies, apart from a few counterculture weirdos who play as the baddies. You need to have them be, kind of awful. Now, Warhammer does that really well, to be honest, having everyone be a bit awful. I think it works to its favor very well. Okay, now we're going to do the Gehenna's Gold. Hello, Cole Jordan. So what I'm painting here are the 3 Necron characters that were introduced for 10th edition, as in the models. So the updated Imhotep the Stormlord model, the Necron Overlord with Translocation Shroud, and the Orican the Diviner. Just finished assembling a Stormlord, my homebrew Imperial Guard regiment called the Ironborn, inspired by the people in a Game of Thrones Song of Ice and Fire. I love that concept. It's really cool having your own homebrew Imperial Guard regiment. That's incredible. Also, the Ironborn in Game of Thrones, House Greyjoy, are my favorite of the houses from that series. I've got an axe on my wall that is Euron Greyjoy's axe, with the Kraken motif on and the kind of and the ruby eyes. I used to have a phone case that was House Greyjoy, so I'm a huge fan of that concept, the Ironborn in 40k. Really, that's awesome. I'd love to see what that looks like when it's going further along, because that sounds incredible. It's for me, the Ironborn is that speech that Euron Greyjoy gives at the King's Moot. The original sighting of the "When men see my banners, they when men see my sails coming, they pray." gold. Shivers down my spine. So actually, I read the Song of Ice and Fire books, the ones that are out so far. I read a Game of Thrones in 2 days, Clash of Kings 2 days, Storm of Swords 2 days, Feast for Crows 2 days, and then Dance with Dragons was 3 days. Raced through those books. It was so enjoyable. And yeah, lovely to see them represented. There's actually a Song of Ice and Fire miniatures game, which I've looked into getting into, but I just never managed. And it's kind of hard to convert people to a new system of game. So didn't do it in the end. It's interesting. The whole miniature wargaming hobby is so huge. Like, I always make a distinction between miniature wargaming versus Warhammer, because it's such a huge hobby. There's a Song of Ice and Fire miniatures game. There's Star Wars. There's a few Star Wars mini war games. There's a Harry Potter one. There's an Elder Scrolls one. I think there's a Batman one that's a different scale that look very interesting. So many tabletop war games, but I stick with Warhammer mostly because it's the one I'm most familiar with. It's got lore I'm really fascinated by. It's just it's an interesting game world, and I like the support you get for it as well. Also, let's face it, it's got a really good community, right? People, the YouTubers for it, the consistent, the articles, the video content that is produced officially as well as by fans. It's just a really lovely community, and I don't feel like you quite get the same quantity out there for stuff like BattleTech. I looked into BattleTech, right? Who didn't look into BattleTech back in like 2021, right? It was just as Games Workshop had done that updated copyright procedure, the copyright stuff. Everyone was up in arms online, and everyone was saying, "Oh, we should play BattleTech. BattleTech's the one to go with." And I just didn't get on with how to make a list for it. I love homebrew armies anyway. Even my Necrons, I give them a custom dynasty name. My Chaos Knights have a custom dynasty, have a custom household name. So brilliant, make your own color scheme, just have fun with it. Write your own lore. My Chaos Knights, the lore is that they were a household from a world that was kind of at a certain point integrated with the Harlequins, so they kind of went a bit overly silly and overly crazy as a result. Why they've got madcap color scheme. It's fun to have a bit of a justification for having some silliness in an already very silly hobby. Let's face it, it's a very silly world. Numbers don't mean a lot. I was listening to the latest Warhammer podcast, and they're talking about how in physics 100,000 and 800,000 are the same number, but for 40k 900 and a million are the same number. So the scaling of Warhammer is one of the many things that makes it so wonderfully silly. So it's a really fun place to be. Oh, hello. This is hello everyone. This is the most people I've ever had on stream at the same time. Hello, welcome to the stream. Really happy to have you all here. Just for anyone just tuning in, today painting up the Imitic the Stormlord, the Oricon the Diviner and the Necron Overlord with Translocation Shroud that were released as part of the Necrons in 10th edition, and just painted them up to a nice little tabletop standard. And just, yeah, feel free to throw stuff in the chat, and yeah, I'll respond to as much as I possibly can. And yeah, just have a lovely little kind of diatribe about stuff. Yeah, let's have some fun. It's just a fun hobby to geek out about, right? Isn't it? Like, that's why we can talk for hours and hours and hours. And it's really, what I find is that it's really weird trying to engage. Like, have you ever had the conversation where someone asks you about the hobby, who's only kind of low level interest, and you basically have like 4 sentences before they zone out? Like, that's a really weird conversation to have. But yeah, yeah, I hope people like the stream. It'd be really lovely to, yeah, it'd be so cool to have people join for more painting and general chit chat, right? That's what we're here for. So that is the Gehenna's Gold. Okay. So the rest of the game plan here, one's gone. The rest of the game plan here is to go for, I need to water down my Hexwraith Flame to get a really thin layer, which I can put onto the 2 models where I didn't do that on the previous stream. And then a moot green for all these orbs. Cover the whole of every model here in Agrax Earthshade. Then paint the bases up in Orc Flesh. Once the Agrax Earthshade is fully dried, fully dried, that's when we'll go for that's when we'll cover the whole thing in technical Ard Coat, and then a little bit of Valhalla and Blizzard on different bits of the base to just kind of polish it off. Might not actually, no, I'm not going to do the Agrax Earthshade today, because just looking at the time, I try and keep these to about an hour, and I'm going to want to tidy up some of the details where I've kind of messed up a little bit. So I'll kind of finish these off in a different stream. But let's water down some Hexwraith Flame. Hexwraith Flame. Yeah, thinning the paint out. I've got a little palette here. It's just a Tupperware lid. That's all this is. Use some water to get that really nice and thin, a proper like ink consistency. And then let's start with the Overlord. I'm just going to very thinly go over just a lot of this model. Just get that watered down Hexwraith Flame in all the little recesses of the guy, just to really have that kind of sink in, and then just drag it away, stop it pooling, because you want it in the recess, but you never want it to pool. So so what I do for that is, people will say, oh, don't let it pool, but they'll never tell you how to not let it pool. So what I do to stop it pooling is I dry my brush out just on some tissue, and then just gently, and then just pull away. And that, that helps stop it pooling, and you just get a better effect for it in it as a whole. Let's get that same watered down mixture in the holes. In the, because there's these cool little details where it is kind of in the recess, where you got kind of lovely pattern, and it's just trying to have the, keep it in that, and if it's in there, just get a lovely cool effect out of it. So then do the same watered down Hexwraith Flame onto Oracle the Diviner. And again, this is why on Oracle we left this bit of the base not brown, so that the Hexwraith Flame would fit well. Let's get this lovely watered down Hexwraith Flame just to fill all these little orbs, all the little circles, just to get them really, just makes them pop a bit, There's a fun thing to do, actually, if you're struggling with a paint scheme, right? If you're thinking, what do I do to, like, how do I achieve this effect? Or, why, could this be done differently? Just mess around with your paint, see what concoctions you can construct. Like, I really liked Hexwraith Flame as a technical paint. So, yeah, basically I try and recreate the technical paint that when I'm using Hexwraith Flame. Because, that's what it's fun to do. That's something I really enjoy doing with this hobby, is messing around and just changing up things. It's the same principle as a kit bash. Okay. There we are, the Hexwraith Flame. Oh, there's a little bit more Hexwraith Flame to do here. There we are, and we just drag the excess away to stop it pooling. There we are. One thing I like doing is that when I'm choosing the order of what I paint and when, I tend to try and actually go from like the least daunting color to the most, which is kind of why I've not been doing the moot green on this, because I just find it a very daunting paint to try and utilize. So I'm actually going to use some. So yeah, I'm actually going to start on the basing. And it took me a while to figure out how I'd like to do basing. And what I ended up realizing was the type of basing I love doing is just get a contrast paint like this, this orc flesh, and just use that orc flesh on the entirety of the base. Just get a really good thick layer across the whole base. And what that lets you do, and in doing that across the whole base, you get a bit of shading with it, so you get a little bit of, it's a bit dynamic. And with orc flesh specifically, it looks very grass-like. And what I like to have my models look like these days is like it's just snowed the previous day and the snow's starting to melt. So I get a really good layer of orc flesh. And then, yeah, good layer of orc flesh, and just paint up the base like that. And then when that's fully dried, that's when I'll go in with some Valhalla and Blizzard and just do a few details on top of that. And just a couple of drops of Valhalla and Blizzard. I find personally that's a really lovely effect, like that first snow melt. This looks really pretty. And yeah, it's a nice little base effect. I used to hate doing basing. Hated it beyond words. Because I put all this work into the model, and there was this extra step that I didn't find as fun. So having a nice, simple base technique that still looked good and gave things a consistent theme was really important to me. I just loved it. Again, just because I'm doing the basing does not mean I'm finished with the model, right? This is nowhere near. I've got more moot green to do. I've got the moot green to do. I've got the Angrax Earthshade and Technicolard coat to put on. And then I'm also doing, but before I've even, but once I've done the moot green, there's tidy up to do. Tidy up is not the most fun stage, but it does, it gives you that chance to look over your model and see what needs updating, what needs to be done a bit differently, and well, not differently, but just like tidied up. Because that's the thing, you never want to have. I don't like to have my models look like they've only had a little bit of work done on them. You want them to look good, and so got to tidy up where you've made mistakes. Here we are. With this Imotech base, I'm deliberately avoiding the little platform he's on. I like the idea of it being a kind of a floating platform that he's taking with him. There's a story in the Necron 10th edition Codex starring Anrakir the Traveller, where like a lot of nobles just do that. They create these little platforms. And there's a reading of it on my channel, actually, where my video capture software just wasn't working properly. So it's a fun one. That is orc flesh. It's covering every one of these bases. And so I've got, so the next stage is, so here's the rest of the stages in order. Valhalla and Blizzard finishes off the bases. Moot green for all of these orbs. Angrax Earthshade for detailing and a bit of and the effect that gives you. And then cover them in Technicolard coat. The thing with Technicolard coat, I'm really only using it because I used it on my original on my first Imatech that's installed on my original Oracle and the Diviner models, went way overboard with those ones, and they look incredibly shiny. I just wanted to replicate that. Fun fact, I made a cup of tea just before the stream. I thought I'll make a cup of tea, I'll drink it just before the stream, keep my voice nice and lubricated, and I forgot about it. So that's fun. I am now drinking a slightly cold cup of tea. So this Orc Green's not dry enough yet to use any Valhalla and Blizzard, so let's start a bit on the Moot Green before I end the stream. A little bit reluctant to end the stream because, again, currently you've got 5 viewers and had 7 at one point, which is the most I've ever had. Really appreciate everyone who's tuned in. And I just kind of want to keep going. I'm loving the people watching. If you are watching, please could you put in the chat if there's a delay. So as I'm saying these words, I'm going to put the Moot Green in front of the camera. And what I'm not sure is if there's a delay between between the audio you're hearing and the video that is being picked up. Because if there's a delay, I drastically need to sort out my camera, basically. Got a webcam that actually uses my phone as a webcam. And I'm a bit worried there's a delay in that, and that it's causing everything to be unsynced. Slight delay, but not too much. Thank you very much for the confirmation. Yeah, Moot Green's a weird colour, really bright. It makes me long for the old Goblin Green. There's actually a set of paints you can buy that is supposed to really replicate the colours and consistency of the older paints, the ones that I grew up with. I just never got around to it. And the thing is that, like, I pine for these old paints, but I also know these are so much easier to work with. I feel I get far better results out of modern paints than I did the old paints. And part of that's age and experience, but the technology is very much a thing. A couple of good orbs on the Overlord of Translocation Shroud. Does this guy have any little scarabs around? That's another. Okay, so he's got no Diddy scarabs. So you can move him way back. Next, let's bite the bullet. Eat the frog, as they say. It's not actually eating the frog. I did the most daunting bit almost last. But I'm never going to feel like I'm making good progress until I've done the orbs on Oracle the Diviner here. Actually, I'm going to ask a question to everyone, which is, do you have any particularly funny experiences in a Warhammer store? Any particularly funny interactions or anything? Because I've been kind of planning a video for a while of kind of fun stories from Warhammer shops. I've got a few, but I feel like it'd be a lot of fun if I could incorporate some of the community's stories as well. It's like one was when I was first getting back into the hobby, going in and saying to this guy, the store manager, I'm trying to get back into the hobby after many, and I've not been here since fourth ed, 40k. And I just want to know kind of what, I don't know what's changed. I'm a bit nervous about being back into it after all this time. Can you help me? And that's when he was telling me, oh yeah, his camera's glitched. Yeah, I used Skull White. And it was reassuring to have that from a longer term hobbyist. I actually applied for a few jobs at Games Workshop. I had an interview to become as an e-commerce scheduler, was the job title I was interviewed for. Soon after I didn't get that job, they had a bunch of scheduling issues. I applied to be a writer. A couple of months later, a bunch of there were lots of complaints about the writing. I applied to be what was it I applied to do? I applied to work in their kind of copyright department, and about a month later was the copyright debacle. A month or so after they rejected me for that one, I applied to I think I applied for one more, but it's kind of just this weird and interesting thing that job I apply for. And shortly after I rejected by Games Workshop for those jobs, something messed up in the community. So it's a good thing I didn't apply to be their CFO. And thank you for saying I'll be good at those jobs. That's reassuring. So, lots of little green orbs on Orican the Diviner here. It really brings it out, It's got a lovely little green eye. Counting 2 more blobs on him. Oh, and then a couple of dots on these scarabs. I guess what I'll do actually is anytime I apply for a job at Games Workshop, what I'll do is I'll mention on live stream, I applied for this job. And then we'll see how things go, right? Also, love to know how people are finding this, because I've been trying to get better at tags, actually. So I'm hoping that some of that's paid off, which is how so many more of you are joining me today than I'm used to. So I'm so chuffed with, I'm so happy that people are joining. It's so fun, so much more fun when there are people to enjoy this hobby with. It's partially why I started this channel, to just share the hobby with people. So used to, I kind of got very used to not playing anywhere near as much, not doing as much hobby stuff with people as I'd like. Like I've played, depending on how you want to count it, I've played either 2 or 4 games of Warhammer in the last 12 months. I say depending on how you want to count it, because it was kind of 2 different days. One where I played 1 game of 40k, and 1 game of Age of Sigmar, and then another day, 2 games of 40k. And yeah, it kind of gets a bit, when you're kind of loving the hobby as much as I do, you do want to do more with it. You want to share the love with people. And, it's lovely getting to geek out with people and share, this is really cool and here's why. This is really cool and here's why. So yeah, I just like to be able to do that with people and just, have a bit of fun and sharing this stuff. Okay. Just thinking, I need to eat dinner at some point. I've got a little bit more moot green to do. I'll probably finish off doing this moot green. I might be able to do some Valhalla and Blizzard as well. But man's got to eat at some point. I love the color of moot green. It's such a beautiful shade. Dainty little scarabs. Huh? Now the moot green for Imhotep. Necron names are fun, right? Can we just appreciate Necron names for a moment? Imhotep the Storm Lord, Oricon the Divine, Trazin the Infinite. I used to call him Trazin before the audiobook of Infinite and the Divine, actually. Swore blind it was Trazin. But then, yeah, the audiobook kept saying Trazin the Infinite, so that's what I roll with. Okay. Shall I tell one more fun story from being in a Games Workshop in a Warhammer store? It was actually the same day as the guy, same visit as the Borax White or Skull White as he used to know it. I should preface that everything in this story is from this store manager was incredibly well intentioned, right? Incredibly well intentioned. I bear this man no ill will, nor should anyone else. He was being incredibly friendly I just acquired the Middle-earth models, Tom Bombadil and Goldberry. I was very excited to paint them. And I went into the store, and one of the paints I asked for was a skin tone. It was pretty soon after contrast paint's been introduced. I was recommended the contrast paint Guilliman Flesh. Now, if you've ever used Guilliman Flesh, it's a surprisingly dark paint. The other thing to know about me is I am not a white guy. I'm mixed race, but people tend to assume that I am just fully Indian. So when this guy gives me Guilliman Flesh, I'm asking for skin tone because I'm trying to paint like these Middle-earth models, and everything's very pale. So I get home, really excited to paint up these Middle-earth models, and Guilliman Flesh is a brown. I found that hilarious. I kind of applaud the guy for giving me that paint. Yeah, can't fault him whatsoever. It's a really funny day. It's a fun story to recount. The other fun story was way back when I was playing 4th edition in a store. And I had one really good round of shooting. And what was weird is the kid I was playing against got really angry at the game. He got really angry at the game. And to this day, I can't do many good impressions, but one of them was of this kid, because he, honest to God, sounded like a parody. It was fully, oh no, we rapid fired and took out and took out most of my squad, and then I failed a morale check and they all fled. Like it sounded exactly like that. Exactly like that. It was insane to me that this kid just sounded like the absolute parody. It was a very good round of shooting. Like, I'd be salty, but it was just really funny to hear this kid talk in this parody of this kind of voice. It sounded like a parody of the salty loser. Yeah, those are my kind of 3 most hilarious stories. Lost Times in Games Workshop store is a really lovely, a really good group, really lovely community in that local store. And there was I was playing 40k against this Thousand Suns player who painted all of his Thousand Suns models to look like Heresy era. So they were in these beautiful, beautiful, vibrant reds. And then there was a guy with Chaos Knights as well as me, and he'd had his paint Cometis color scheme. So beautiful. It's so lovely going into a physical store to see the people's paint jobs. Everyone's so lovely. At least for my local one. I have to fight the urge to say where my local one is because I don't want to dox myself live on stream. But yeah, that's the Moot Green. So let's get some Valhalla Blizzard on these bases. And then I am actually going to have to leave it a bit long before I do a tidy up of where I've messed up with paint. So just tidy up, Angrax Earthshade, Technical Art Coat, and I'll have to do those next time on next stream. And that next stream should hopefully be Tuesday next week. I tend to put something on the channel page, a little community post saying, live stream this time, 5:30ish. Just feels right. People have just finished work, and it's a nice one to just kind of kick back to. So let's open up the old Valhalla Blizzard. I used to have a really good script tool for this here on my desk, but I'm not seeing it right now. Just a little bit of Valhalla Blizzard. comes off like this, which is really lovely. And you can just place it down where it needs to go. Just little bits in a few places. Just give the illusion of that first snow melt. Okay. There we are. A little bit of snow on all of the base, on all three bases. So yeah, I think that's going to be it for now. Join me next week for as we kind of tidy up and finish up these three models. And yeah, I've been WhyILove Warhammer, and until next time. Oh, I've got a video going up tomorrow about the Seraphon in Age of Sigmar. If you want to drop this video a like, I'd really appreciate that. Subscribe for more of this unbridled positivity. You know, I try and upload 3 to 4 times a week plus a weekly live stream, and then and I got memberships and Patreon and whatnot. Okay, this is particularly weird. Camera's not coming back, but let's type it in. Thank you all for joining me. I will see you all next time, and until then, I hope you're having a really good day.